Well, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar, Forum on Investment and Transformation for Ukraine, FIT Ukraine. My name is Romina Bandura. I'm a senior fellow with the Center for Strategic and International Studies here in Washington, D.C. And I have the great pleasure of moderating this excellent session today, where we're going to be discussing investment opportunities in the manufacturing of construction materials in Ukraine. We have a great lineup of speakers. Before I introduce the speakers and we kick off the session, some housekeeping rules. We have simultaneous interpretation. So there is a button at the bottom where you can click and you'll have the interpretation. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A section. So you can drop your question there. So we're going to begin with a presentation by Mr. Serhiy Svikach, who is the CEO and Executive Director of Ukraine Invest. Ukraine Invest has been ranked as one of the top investment promotion agencies in 23 of the Central and Eastern Europe countries during 2020 and 2022. So Serhiy is going to present for 20 minutes about investment opportunities in Ukraine in this sector. Serhiy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Romina. I'm glad to have our partners today. Thank you for agreeing to moderate this session. This session is very important because we, for the last year, continuously talk about rebuilding of Ukraine. So we have seen a lot of information about damage that was caused to infrastructure of Ukraine, to buildings, to economy as such. But our aim with our series of events, Fit for Ukraine, to explain what kind of investment opportunities there are. And every investment opportunity should be based on analytical approach. So businesses, they should understand what will be required to rebuild Ukraine, what kind of products, and what they can start planning now right away based on this analytical approach. So I will launch my presentation and we will go to analytical assessments of the needs of Ukraine in terms of manufacturing of construction materials. One second, it's...
Yep, we can see it.
Can you see the presentation? I'm just trying to go to next slide.
We just see the first slide, I think.
Not working at the moment. One second. Yeah, it's working now. Okay, so data. As of February 2023, the total amount of direct damage to Ukraine's residential and non-residential building and infrastructure in Ukraine reached $143 billion. The largest share in the total volume of direct losses belongs to residential buildings. 37%, or money equivalent of more than $53 billion, and infrastructure, 25%, which is equivalent to $36 billion. Losses of businesses in terms of assets that were destroyed or damaged amounted to at least $11.3 billion. Below you can see some breakdown. Residential buildings, more than 153,000 of residential buildings were destroyed or damaged. 630 administrative buildings, 426 large and medium enterprises, more than 25,000 kilometers of roads, and 344 bridges. 440,000 square meters of logistical facilities were destroyed in Kyiv region alone. More than 1,200 healthcare facilities and educational facilities were destroyed as well. 915 destroyed, 2,165 damaged. Damage to the housing stock is the largest component of the overall direct damage caused to property and infrastructure in Ukraine. The total area of damaged or destroyed housing objects is 83 million square meters, which is about 8.2% of the total housing stock in Ukraine. There is different type of damage: partial, average, and completely destroyed. Partial damage calculated when there is a 10% or less damage to an object. And we have in Ukraine 18.6 million square meters or 15,000 residential buildings that received partial damage. Average damage between 10 to 40% damage to an object. So we have 35.3 million square meters in this category, or 65.7 thousand residential buildings in equivalent. Completely destroyed, 29.6 million square meters, or in numbers, it's 72.7 thousand of residential buildings. Completely destroyed and significantly damaged buildings amount to 65 million square meters. The number is huge. And that's why we decided to provide you some.
Величезна цифра, і саме тому.
Yes, I'm here in translation, so maybe it should be switched to another channel. So with approximate calculations to rebuild this amount of housing, and we're talking only about completely destroyed and average destroyed buildings, we will need plenty of construction materials. We have used data of partners of this event, Confederation of Builders of Ukraine, in order to assess preliminary, it's a very preliminary assessment, how much of materials in the following 4-5 categories will be required to rebuild Ukraine. So Ukraine will need, for residential housing only, completely or moderately destroyed, 3.9 million square meters of glass, at least 5.7 million cubic meters, or 11.9 million tons of concrete, 39.3 million cubic meters of bricks, or 14 billion pieces of bricks, 45 million square meters of roofing tiles. You can see these numbers are very significant, and that creates investment opportunity for manufacturing in Ukraine. We have an online service, DIA, and people, residents of Ukraine, they can submit application when their housing was destroyed. So DIA service already received 299,000 of applications. So, and total area of destroyed housing that will require rebuilding is 21 million square meters. This is confirmed by applications of individuals in Ukraine. What kind of opportunities in terms of investments in Ukraine right now? So I will be going through 4 categories, and you will see what will be needed. We will start with glass. Opportunities for glass production in Ukraine are very significant due to silica sand and quartz reserves. Raw materials for glass production produced in Ukraine per year. We produce 2 million tons of silica sands, and we produce 0.8 million tons of quartz and quartzites for industrial use. Flawed glass, which is made by a special procedure in a casting, by casting in a bath of melted iron, was produced in Ukraine only by Lysychansk glass factory, and that factory ceased its activities in 2015. So at the moment, we do not have any glass factory in Ukraine, and we rely mainly on imported glass. Before the war, the demand was 32.5 million square meters of float glass per year for all types of construction, not only housing. So therefore, to meet the demand and reconstruction of housing buildings in Ukrainian market will require up to 37 million of square meters of float glass. This is to rebuild and then to continue operation at a lower level that will be needed for Ukrainian development later. A modern manufacturing plant with annual capacity of about 18 million square meters of float glass may require investment around $200 million. Opportunities for cement production. Ukraine has a huge raw material base for cement production. Raw materials for cement production that are produced in Ukraine with some figures per year: sands, 19 million tons, limestone, 14 million tons, limestone not broken or crushed, 7 million tons, gypsum and anhydrite, 1 million tons, kaolin, 2 million tons, chalk, 0.5 million tons. Also, we have semi-finished and finished goods produced in Ukraine in this category, which are ready-mix concrete, 23 million tons, Portland cement, 11 million tons, cement clinker, 7 million tons, prefabricated structural components for building, 4 million tons, building blocks and bricks of cement, 6 million tons, building blocks and bricks of light concrete, 1 million tons, and refractory cements, mortars, and concrete, 0.5 million tons. Ukraine is one of the major cement producers in the Eastern Europe, and we export our product on a quite broad scale. We have big players present in Ukraine, international and Ukrainian, such as CRH, Dyckerhoff, and Kovalska. Additionally to domestic consumption, Ukraine exports semi-finished goods, cements, including clinkers, articles of cement, and asbestos cement, as well as refractory cements, and as well raw materials, clays, kyanite, kaolin, natural sands, and all kinds of, and limestone as well. We export this to neighboring countries and throughout the region. Overall, Ukrainian companies produced 25 million tons of cement before the war. Export of cement amounted to 1 million tons. Besides domestic production, Ukraine imported cement as well, around 1 million tons a year. So the need for housing buildings reconstruction alone may add demand for at least 11.9 million tons. A modern plant production capacity may exceed 2 million tons of cement per year, and a cement plant may require investment around 150 million tons. Ceramics. We will need plenty of this product in Ukraine, and also we have raw materials that will be used for production of this product. We have kaolin that is extracted in amount of about 2.3 million tons a year, Adiklos 3 million tons, silica 2.7 million tons. Ukraine is the 7th largest producer of the kaolin in the world, and we account to almost 4% of global production of kaolin. Kaolin from some deposits has very high whiteness, low content of iron oxide, calcium and sulfur oxides are practically absent. Such properties make this kaolin of very high quality. We have significant raw material base for ceramic production, as you can see. We produce, extract clays, andesite, kyanite, selemonite exports from Ukraine, and that amounts to 11% of the world exports, which amounts to 5.9 million tons per year. Ukraine has about 3.5% share in the world exports of kaolin, 1 million tons per year. Ukraine produces annually 50 million square meters of ceramic tiles and flags. Reconstruction needs may double the demand for ceramics. Roofing tiles alone might be needed in an amount of about 45 million square meters. An average plant may produce about 15 million square meters of ceramic tiles per year. On average, investment in a ceramic factory could be around $50 million. We have big producers also in Ukraine. We have companies like Terzanit from Poland present, Ukrainian company Epicenter, Atem Group, Kerameya, Intercerama, and other players already present in Ukraine. But the room for development is significant as well. BRICS, also a very significant opportunity. Raw materials that are present in Ukraine for this product are the following. So we have fire clay, about 8 million tons a year. Other clays, about 2 million tons. BRICS export from Ukraine. We export refractory bricks, blocks, tiles, and similar refractory ceramic constructional goods. And we export this in amount of 39,000 tons a year. Ceramic building bricks export is about 77,000 tons per year. Bricks production is an essential part of the buildings and materials industry in Ukraine. And we have a long-standing tradition of making this product. Ukraine has abundant natural resources, such as clay, that is used in several manufacturing lines. Brick production in Ukraine in recent years has been oriented mainly towards domestic market. And we produced around 1.5 billion of bricks per year. Reconstruction may increase demand in bricks to up to 14 billion pieces. However, in modern construction, generally used clinker bricks or aerated cement blocks. This will be used in equivalent of the above stated figure. So we will not be needing 14 billion pieces of bricks, but we will need equivalent of that figure in clinker bricks and aerated cement blocks, because only about 10% of modern construction is using bricks. The rest are using clinker bricks and aerated cement blocks. A modern brick manufacturing plant that can produce this product in amount of 120 million pieces in the form of porous blocks and clinker bricks may require investment around at least $100 million. And you can see that demand will be huge. We have developed sector, but investment opportunity is significant for all players that want to come invest in Ukraine and produce these products that will be used for reconstruction of our housing and other buildings. Iron. Ukraine is the 6th largest iron producer. We produce about 7% of global output. Semi-finished goods of iron produced in Ukraine per year. We produce flat semi-finished products, about 10 million tons. Other ingots, primary forms, and long semi-finished products, about 6 million tons. Ingots for seamless tubes, 1 million tons. Forged bars of steel and hot rolled bars, about 0.3 million tons. Prefabricated buildings of iron or steel, 70,000 tons. Iron or steel doors, thresholds for doors, windows and their frames, about 0.4 million pieces per year. The main iron ore reserves of Ukraine are concentrated in Kryvyi Rih. This is Dnipropetrovsk region. Also, significant part of iron ore reserves is located in Kremenchuk, Belozersk, Mariupol, and other districts. Ukraine is one of the largest exporters of pig iron and takes a significant role in world exports, about 22%. Semi-finished products of iron, 9% of the world's exports, and bars and rods of iron, 3.5% of the world's exports. Due to the blocked ports, Ukrainian exports were reoriented to European markets in 2022. So last year, Ukraine exported about 63% of domestic production worth $27.9 billion US. That is an increase of more than 4% compared to 2021. We mainly exported to Poland, $6.6 billion, Romania, $3.8 billion, Hungary, $2.2 billion, Germany, $2.2 billion, and other countries, $13 billion. However, due to destroyed manufacturing capacities and occupation of Mariupol, Ukraine in 2022 produced almost 6.3 million tons of steels. This is only a third of production level in 2021. Nevertheless, metalworking industry has significant potential in Ukraine, and a lot of bars and rods of iron will be needed to rebuild housing in Ukraine and other properties in Ukraine. So investment potential is very significant. We have access to raw materials, we have access to skilled force, we have growing demand, and we have industry that is well developed in Ukraine. It will come back to the same level, not only for housing rebuilding, but for all rebuilding related to bridges, critical infrastructure, hospitals, healthcare, and other facilities. Now, I would like to focus on opportunities for investments into manufacturing. I'm trying to switch my slides and it's not working for some reason. One second. Okay, while I'm loading, I will talk about investment incentives without slides, and then it will load up. So for any investors that want to come to Ukraine, they can use investment incentives that were introduced by government of Ukraine. We have a law called on investment incentives for significant investment projects. If you invest more than $20 million euros in Ukraine, then you can get state support in amount of 30% of investment made. This support may come in soft incentives. So we are talking about corporate income tax relief for up to 5 years. Your new equipment that will be brought to facility can be exempt from paying custom duties. You can receive a relief and avoid paying VAT on imports of equipment as well. And state of Ukraine can support you in providing communication grids for your facility. Sectors that fall under provisions of this law are quite broad. All processing industry, logistics, healthcare, agriculture, tourism, leisure, postal services, and other sectors of economy, they fall under definition of this law. Ukraine Invest is responsible for preparation of projects under this law. So any investor can come to us and we will support them and prepare their application that will be submitted to Ministry of Economy. All services of Ukraine Invest are free of charge. So investors will get an excellent opportunity and be able to participate in this process. Before the war, we had 28 projects in our pipeline that were planning to use this scheme in order to get state incentives. Only 3 applications were submitted before the war, and unfortunately, due to full-scale invasion of Ukraine, investment projects were put on hold. However, at the moment, we have new 8 projects in our pipeline, in total amount about $1.3 billion. So we invite everyone to use this opportunity and apply for state support. This would increase your IRR and that would decrease your payback period. One more slide is about export opportunities. When you invest in Ukraine, you're not only covering local markets, but you will get access to regional markets and markets throughout the world. Ukraine has 19 free trade agreements with 47 countries, including deep and comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU. Ukraine is a member of Pan-Euro-Mediterranean Convention that gives you an opportunity to cooperate with countries that are also members of the convention, produce goods using raw materials from other countries, and then sell them within the region without any custom duties. Ukraine exports are quite large, and they export commonly used building materials for more than $10 billion in 2021 alone, and this could be significantly increased. You can see the distance of products that are produced in Ukraine and shipped throughout the world. So the biggest distance for pig iron products, it's about 6,000 kilometers. And the smallest one is 730 kilometers for cement, including cement clinkers. So you can see export opportunity is significant. And when you're planning to do investment in Ukraine, you're not only covering local market, but you're also covering exports that will be managed and administrated from Ukraine. Also, we have a law on industrial parks, and that law provides you with a number of significant incentives. All residents that will participate in industrial parks can benefit from 10 years corporate income tax relief. They can get full or partial compensation of interest rates on loans for arranging an industrial park or carrying out economic activity within the park. Residents can get non-refundable financing for arranging of industrial park and construction of related infrastructure facilities, as well as operators. Compensation for connecting to engineering grids at the cost of state is possible, provided that budget of Ukraine will have money for these purposes. This is what Ukraine is working on now. Land tax exemption, lower land tax rate, and also VAT exemption for importing of new equipment. Also, companies can be exempt from real estate tax for industrial buildings and exempt from payment on forestry production losses. At the moment in Ukraine, we have 61 industrial parks. Industrial park could start from 10 hectares. It could be as big as 1,000 hectares. On the screen, you can see contacts of Ukraine Invest. So we encourage you to get in touch with us if you have any questions about possibilities of doing business in Ukraine. I need to tell you that it is very important to start planning your investment now. A greenfield project could take 2 to 3 years to be implemented. At the same time, planning period could easily take half of that time. And it's not as costly as implementation stage because you just do planning, you have to choose your land, you have to appoint your teams, and you can do that remotely. You don't have to be in Ukraine all the time. Ukraine Invest is your reliable partner, as well as other state institutions responsible for investments attraction to Ukraine. So we can do this remotely. This is all free of charge for you. And today you will see presentations from companies that already using this opportunity and planning significant investment projects in Ukraine in the sector of manufacturing of construction materials. Thank you. I would like to pass the floor back to Romina, and I would be delighted to listen to presentation of companies about doing business in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Svikach. And there was a great interest to share your presentation. So one of the questions was if the team of Ukraine Invest could share the presentation after the webinar. So there was this very granular. There are many opportunities in these 5 sectors: glass, cement, ceramics, bricks, iron. And again, not only for domestic consumption, but for exports. And so now I'm going to turn the floor to our speakers. We have 6 experts, both from regional governments, from multilateral development banks, and from companies that will be presenting some cases of investment opportunities and others. So our first speaker is Mr. Vitaly Koval. Mr. Vitaly Koval is head of the Rivne Regional Military Administration. He will talk about the development of future developments of the construction materials industry in the Rivne region. So Mr. Koval, if you could please, you have 8 minutes for your presentation, and welcome.
Дякую. Щиро радий бачити всіх і чути Хочу почати свою доповідь і презентацію з хорошого настрою, тому що дійсно, що б не відбувалося, українці вже показали, що можуть бути стійкими і оптимістичними в будь-яких ситуаціях. Наш регіон є хоч і прикордонним біля Республіки Білорусь, але відносно спокійним, хоч і ми мали 18 ракетних ударів, але економіка і всі сфери життєдіяльності області стабільно працюють. Більше того, 22-й рік показав зростання в нашій області. Ми по більшості економічних показників маємо зростання. В першу чергу це по населенню. Нас на 57 тисяч стало більше. Сьогодні Рівненська область має вже 1 200 000 населення, а було 1 143 000 до війни. Основні галузі показали непогану динаміку, і хочу подякувати в першу чергу Ukraine Invest, тому що така інституційна підтримка і особиста увага Сергія Цівкача дозволила нам продовжити інвестпроекти навіть в період війни. Зокрема, датська компанія Hjort Knudsen уже після початку широкомасштабного вторгнення в кінці лютого почали будівництво, і в жовтні місяці 2022 року у нас була відкрита меблева фабрика, яка сьогодні працює повністю на європейський ринок і виготовляє сучасні дизайнерські меблі. Там працевлаштовано більше 200 чоловік, а по плану буде працевлаштовано близько 1000, коли вийде повністю на проектну потужність. І таких прикладів оптимістичного підходу до бізнесу у нас декілька, зокрема склозаводи, які продовжують модернізацію, реконструкцію печей своїх, і вони також наростили об'єми виробництва, і ми сьогодні бачимо експорт продукції з області з коефіцієнтом 1,4 до імпорту. Тобто на кожну євро імпорту ми маємо євро 40 центів експорту. 80% всього експорту з Рівненщини – це європейський ринок, тобто досить вимогливий ринок, і хочемо подякувати партнерам з Європейського Союзу, які дозволили нам по скороченій процедурі пройти процедури саме отримання дозвільних документів, так звані єврономера на виробничі потужності, такі як молочне виробництво, як заводи по харчових технологіях. Фактично це зблизило нас з європейським ринком і дозволило швидше вийти на ринки, які нас цікавлять. В загальному експорт виріс на 5,7% по відношенню до 2021 року. Здійснюється в 119 країн світу. І стосовно сьогоднішньої теми нашої зустрічі, це розвиток будівельного ринку. Скажу, що ми очікуємо бум будівельної промисловості після перемоги, але до цього буму потрібно готуватись уже сьогодні, тому що ми розуміємо, хто перше займе нішу, особливо додану вартість в процесі переробки корисних копалин, той буде на декілька років попереду всіх інших. В області більше 600 кар'єрів корисних копалин. В основному у нас це будівельне каміння, граніт, діорит, габро. Запаси вимірюються в сотнях мільйонів тонн кубічних метрів. Також є унікальні поклади сировини для теплоізоляційних матеріалів та архітектурно-будівельних виробів. Це базальт, те, чим славиться Рівненщина. Крейда будівельна і інші продукти, які використовуються саме в будівельній галузі. Дуже вигідне географічне положення регіону. Це між великим містом Львів і столицею України Києвом. І фактично всі будівельні галузі, які можуть бути розвинуті на території області, будуть мати великий ринок збуту. Тернопільська, Волинська область, Львівська, Київська, Житомирська, тобто такий досить активний західноукраїнський кущ. Ми взагалі відчуваємо, що сьогодні Західна Україна починає бути таким плацдармом для майбутнього відновлення України. І для відновлення дійсно потрібно буде багато будівельних матеріалів, тому закликаємо вас включатись в процес відбудови країни, процес побудови новітніх заводів і фабрик, які будуть дійсно робити продукти з високою доданою вартістю і технологічні продукти. Чекаємо вас і на Рівненщині, і в Україні, тому що дійсно партнерство тут грає дуже велику роль. І ще раз дякую Ukraine Invest і всім організаторам даного заходу за те, що ми сьогодні мали можливість презентувати і чути партнерів. Дякую.
Thank you, Mr. Koval, for that excellent presentation. Certainly there are, you highlighted there are many investment opportunities in your region, and not only, circumscribed to construction materials, but, food technology and others. So we thank you for your thoughts. And now I'm going to turn to Mrs. Olena Voloshina. She is the head of the IFC office in Ukraine. As you know, the IFC is the private sector arm of the World Bank, and together with Ukraine Invest can help foreign investors into Ukraine. So Mrs. Voloshina will talk about some of the financing tools that IFC provides. And so please, Mrs. Voloshina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ramina. Дуже дякую, пане Віталій. Після вашої такої надихаючої спіч дуже гарно після цього говорити про фінанси. Сергій, дуже дякую вам також за дуже такий змістовний аналіз і дуже просила би вас надіслати копію презентації, як інші учасники. I'll switch to English if you don't mind. I was just thanking both speakers. And I think Ukraine Invest did an excellent job in putting together the analytics, which I'm certainly going to be able to use in my work. But let me tell you a little bit about IFC and what we have been doing and what we can now offer to Ukrainian businesses. Of course, the Russian invasion caused a significant contraction of the Ukrainian private sector. It turned out to be incredibly resilient. I never expected that the Ukrainian private sector would be able to continue operating, financing its employees, paying taxes, financing rebuild and reconstruction whenever the assets were destroyed or partially destroyed, and also supporting the communities. So the private sector has really demonstrated its ability and its support of Ukrainian people. But at the same time, before the war, the private sector accounted for 70% of the country's GDP. And the GDP contracted, and hence the private sector contracted significantly. European Business Association has recently conducted a survey, and the result of the survey shows that 83% of Ukrainian businesses dropped their production. 40% experienced direct losses, and 25% lost their assets to occupation. And some of those cannot take them back. And when they do, as one of my clients did in Kherson region, it took him 2 or 3 months to get to the field. And it's going to take him a good 2, 3, or if not 4 months to repair the equipment, which was highly sophisticated European equipment. As you know, the World Bank did a study. It was called Rapid Damage and Needs Assessment. The bank did it. The first part of the work was done in December, and then they did an update, which was just presented 2 weeks ago. And according to that study, the needs of Ukraine's economy for reconstruction are estimated at $420 billion. Kyiv School of Economics made a calculation that the private sector alone needs at least $25 billion per year. So the needs are enormous. And as an institution that is focused on developing the private sector, the IFC is trying to take the lead and help this private sector get access to financing. We didn't stop during the war. Since April 2022, we have invested $150 million into the country's economy. The bulk of it was trade because we needed to support export and import operations. But some of the financing went towards purchase of critical imports like diesel fuel, production of critical materials like food for Ukrainian people, supporting IT sector with investment in Horizon. We also provided financing to a large international agricultural commodity trader because Ukraine is an important player and will continue to be so, I'm confident, a significant player in dealing with the global food security agenda. So in December 2022, the board of IFC endorsed a total financing package of up to $2 billion that IFC is ready to finance in the year 2023-2024. Of this 2 billion, 1 billion is coming from IFC's own account, and 1 billion we expect to raise from international partners. We are now in the process of discussions with several international partners and governments on contributing to that facility. And in parallel, we started looking for projects where we could invest. So the analysis that was done by Sergei and his team of the construction materials sector would be very, very handy. We're also going to be complementing the work that the World Bank is doing. We will be doing a deep dives in several of the sectors to see where the potential for the private sector participation is. So we will be doing some analytical research as well, and it would be good to compare where we come out on that research. Now, back to the $2 billion package, it is called ERA, Economic Resilience something. We're good at abbreviations at the World Bank Group. But in essence, it's the amount of funding that is available for Ukrainian private sector companies. We usually finance larger companies directly. And for smaller and medium-sized businesses, we partner with local financial institutions. Actually, Ukrainian banking sector also proved to be quite resilient. So they needed support with trade, and now they're quite liquid. So the instruments we're looking at are risk-sharing facilities with banks and partial credit guarantees that would allow Ukrainian commercial banks to reach out to more SMEs, more Ukrainian companies. The approach that we envisage is going to be phased. During the first phase, we will be focusing on supporting existing clients and mostly on shorter term instruments. Also food security and housing for IDPs. In fact, we have agreed with our donors, the European Union and the government of Germany, to repurpose $50 million funding to go towards helping municipalities with refurbishing some of the municipal buildings so that they could provide for temporary housing for IDPs. And of course, in the second phase, we will be looking more at the capital investment, reconstruction of infrastructure, so all of the longer term investment that is going to happen once we win in this war. In order for us to prepare for this, IFC signed a memorandum of understanding with the government of Ukraine to become a strategic advisor on PPP transactions and also other means and other ways of bringing the private sector into the country. So that dialogue has already started. Predominantly, it's going with the Ministry of Economy and also Ministry of Infrastructure. We're also partnering with the business associations. Huge thanks to Sergei for being, and Ukraine Invest for being a good partner, because Ukraine is going to need a lot of partnerships, and we are ready. We're standing by Ukraine. We are ready to provide support and financing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Voloshina. You know, there is an opportunity also for IFC to work with other bilateral partners, such as, you know, the USDFC and others. So you mentioned, you know, risk sharing, which is very important. and insurance. So this is a very good segue for our third speaker, Mr. Janusz Wladyszczak. He's the president and CEO of KUKE, or the Polish Export Credit Agency, where he will be discussing some of these instruments and, being a leader of trade insurance and trade finance. So, yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope everything is okay. You hear me well. So thank you for the invitation. First of all, Ukraine Investor, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. As mentioned, time is key here. So I'm going to really focus on what we can bring to the table as an export credit agency, in that case, export credit agency of Poland. And I've heard a lot of, good and a very positive information coming here from Lena when she mentioned IFC and what guys are supposed to do and what they're already doing, because a lot of our, in fact, actions are quite similar. And we expect the market to experience a lot of blend financing. So we are more than eager to cooperate with all other institutions, which are eager to be present in Ukraine. Let me just go to the really short presentation, because I want to see if you guys will, just to follow it more in a graphical way. I hope you see it now. Yeah, should be here. So first of all, we really appreciate that we are here, and we try to help as much as we can. As mentioned here by Romina, KUKE is an official Polish export credit agency. So in fact, we do support Polish export and Polish investments outside of Poland. But at the same time, what we do, we provide the liquidity whenever it's needed. And I'm going to show you how it works. So first of all, our approach to Ukraine, and this is something which is extremely important for you guys, and in a nutshell. First of all, we support the trade credit. So when we ensured all the trades between Polish entities, so as well, foreign companies which are based here in Poland, and between Ukrainian companies. So whenever the Ukrainian companies is importing something from Poland, and as we know, this is more and more often the case nowadays. We are Ukraine for Poland in 2022 became number 9 market for export. So Ukraine entered into top 10 of our exporters, importers of our goods, which we're pretty happy about. And this is something which, like Lena said about IFC, we almost never stopped ensuring the trade. Even we've been the first agency and the only one around the world that never stopped doing it. So in fact, and we are pretty happy about that decision. So we provided a lot of liquidity to the market, to the Ukrainian companies directly, for them in order to import the goods which were necessary. And that's what we stick to that rule, and we hope to continue for a longer period. Second thing is investment. There are investments of Polish companies or foreign companies which are based in Poland, and they are willing to invest in Ukraine in greenfield projects, but at the same time, all the brownfields, so any type of financing that is needed for that investment, we are eager to ensure from the credit risk, political risk, and the force majeure. The third pillar of our approach is the rebuilding Ukraine as such, and this is something which is extremely important here, is that whenever the foreign company wants to establish the entity, wants to build a factory in Ukraine, or Ukrainian company wants to develop, or the sovereign, so the government wants to do some project, they can always come to us in order to come up with financing for that particular project. And we are more than happy to find that financing, to ensure that financing, in order to the deal to happen. And under one circumstance, either this transaction will be then, for instance, the factory will be constructed in Portugal by a Polish company, or there will be a certain chain, value chain coming from Poland. So we are able to find suppliers for that particular deal. And as you know, a lot of goods nowadays which are available in Ukraine come from Poland. And under those circumstances, we are happy to find the financing and to ensure that transaction in order for the transaction to happen. And we have that scheme, which we call the Rebuild Ukrainian program. And in fact, it's some part of that already working, especially trade credit investments in rebuilding Ukraine. We are implementing and we are working already on projects that hopefully will materialize in the nearest future. So how does it work? More or less, when you have a project, you can come to us, you can approach us with this idea, show us the idea, show us the business plan, and or the possible cash flows coming from that project. Then we will be able most probably to find you the financing for that project, find you the suppliers from Poland in order for us to be able to ensure that transactions. And at the end of the day, we will take the risk of the project, and the company, the investor, can concentrate on the project itself and on the running of the company. More information are available on under the link, the QR code, which you can scan here. I hope the presentation will be available after. So just to sum up, we are one of those export credit agencies which is willing to take sovereign risk, and that's what majority of ECAs, in fact, are willing to do as well. We were one of those ECAs who were heavily exposed on Ukraine even before the war. So we are really happy with the risk of the country. At the same time, we are one of few, or maybe the only one, who is eager to take the corporate risk as well. And you have to remember that, and it's crucial when our discussion today. It's a tiny exemption that, in fact, nowadays it's kind of difficult for us because the National Bank of Ukraine is still holding its memorandum of payments for foreign loans, but hopefully it will be lifted once, and then we can enter into more financing in the future. At the same time, please remember that we are willing to do investment projects in Ukraine where the investors are from foreign countries, not only coming from Poland, but foreign countries, but under the circumstances that the construction is done by either foreign or Ukrainian company, but with the supplies coming from Poland. At the same time, we are eager to, in terms of the blend finance, we're eager to cooperate with foreign banks, Ukrainian banks, Polish banks, different export credit agency, DFIs, so development financial institutions and multilaterals, in order, to make everyone happy and to progress with the development of Ukraine. So we always find the possibilities. That's more or less it. I hope I've at least presented briefly some of our solutions and the program which is already in place. If you have any questions, you can always drop us a line. We are more than happy to answer and to lead you through different solutions that we have on our shelf for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janusz. That was very comprehensive, and for our participants, we've seen that we have Ukraine Invest ready to help. We have IFC and KUKE, and we thank you for Poland for not only your support and financing, but Poland has been a very good partner to Ukraine throughout the war. So we're very grateful. Now we're going to turn to some practical investments that are happening in Ukraine already. So our last three speakers represent companies, both foreign companies and Ukrainian companies. So our first speaker is Mike Stenson. He's head of Kingspan, an investment which launched an investment project. I believe it's in the Lviv region of 200 million euros. And so, Mike, please, the floor is yours. Please explain to us what you're doing with this investment project.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes. Project, yeah. Sarios status. Yeah. Can you put it can you put it in presentation mode, please?
Okay.
You need to share another screen now with the presentation.
You need to share the screen, Mike.
Yeah, I just want to see. Okay. Just give me 1 second while I...
Yes.
I'm off screen now, right?
No, you're on screen.
Still on screen.
Oh, there we go.
Right. Okay, so thanks for the opportunity, Sergey and team, to give you an update. I work for Kingspan, and we're a very large Irish headquartered company supplying lots of building materials, insulation, insulated panels, lighting, membranes, and lots of other district heating systems and so on. And we did announce this intention to do an investment last summer. Internally, we call the name Saoirse. Saoirse is an Irish or Gaelic language word, which translates into English as freedom and freedom from oppression. And we kind of thought it was a very appropriate project name for what we're doing and what we want to do here. So the idea we have is to develop this campus in Western Ukraine, working obviously very closely with Ukraine Invest. You know, a lot of the stuff that Sergey talked about in his presentation. The area that we're working towards is about 50 hectares. It'll be more than 40, slightly less than 50 perhaps in size. We will have 3 different buildings in the campus. We will have a raw material making mineral wool, which will have and use a lot of raw materials from the locality in Western Ukraine. We will have a very large manufacturing building with 6 different manufacturing units of the various materials and products that we make and sell. You know, today we have 9 factories in Poland, 2 in Slovakia, 2 in Czech, and 3 in Hungary. So we're well established across the region. And we will also build a customer kind of training and experience center with a very specific focus on digitalization. Our rationale for doing this is that it will support the next phase of our business growth in Central and Eastern Europe. It'll act as a beachhead for further development of Kingspan business in Ukraine. Many years ago, we tried to create a factory in Bakhmut, of all places, and we've been based in Ukraine from a selling point of view for more than 15 years. From a Ukraine point of view, we believe that this business and this investment will assist in the creation of an export-led, higher value-add set of products to help the Ukrainian economy. You know, instead of exporting stone or basic steel, we will use those raw materials and convert and make a higher value-add product. And obviously, you know, that should be able to assist with the reconstruction of the economy. Specification that we've developed. We wanted to be close to Lviv. in terms of border proximity, access to people and talent, lots of biodiversity, lots of to be a zero carbon or lower carbon site that will have a lot of material recycling and rainwater recovery and so on. Lots of application of digital tool sets, and we'll need a lot of electricity. And this is one of the concerns, obviously, that we're working through with Sergey, in that we will need, let's say, copious amounts of electricity, and preferably electricity that's not made from either from any fossil fuel source. So that's why we're interested in probably in nuclear, solar, wind, etc. as solutions. So where we're at right now, I mean, it is, in all honesty, it has taken us a bit longer than we had anticipated to find land. It's a bit more difficult, obviously, because a lot of it is agricultural for lots of good reasons. We do have a site preferred, and we also have a backup one now in place. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with Sergey and his team in terms of some of that support stuff that he talked about in his presentation, and developing a business plan for the total. And we have had meetings, and indeed one earlier today, with Olena and her colleagues in IFC, and also with EBRD in terms of support, because we will need a lot of support in terms of significant road access, as well as probably some rail access, as well as the electricity concern. But we've done a lot of work. We've developed a master plan, if you like. Not going to go through the details of it, but it basically shows how all the factories and where they might fit, and lots of finished goods space, and so on. And we have appointed a project team. We set out very clearly that the project team has to be located in Ukraine with a lot of local expertise. So we may have used external international companies, but they are the people on the project team, in addition to our own people in Lviv, are based. So we have architects, project managers, cost managers, legal, and somebody who will actually make it for us, and we've all those put in place. We have developed some key milestones. Obviously, these will depend on how the war will finish and will end. But I mean, the intention would be that by Q3 this year, hopefully we'll have the chosen plot in our name, and obviously there'll be design and development work that will happen over the following 6 or 8 months, and that we would start the construction probably midsummer 2024, and hopefully have the first production trials and activities in place by, say, August, September 2025. It's a 5-year program, at least, to effectively get all that development and all of that work in place, and so on. So that's where we're at. That's how we're doing it, and we're delighted to do it. We took a decision at the board level, back last April, May, June timeframe, while knowing that the war had started and the invasion was underway and so on, to effectively go and make this announcement and make this investment, and we're fully committed right now to do that. So that's where we're at. I'd be very happy to take any questions, and take it from there.
Thank you, Mike. There are many questions in the chat, but we will have a segment on Q&A, and I'll go through those questions with the participants. So thank you so much for that presentation, and now I'm going to turn to Mr. Kirill Pesenkov. He's General Manager of Saint-Gobain, Ukraine, who's been operating in Ukraine since 1990, and he's going to talk about an investment project in Ukraine of 7 million euros. So, Mr. Pesenkov, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Romina. Доброго дня, друзі. Я включаю свою презентацію. Сподіваюсь, що ви бачите. Do you see my screen? Okay. So for the beginning, I would like to thank Sergey for having me, for this opportunity to share the experience we've gained in realization of the project in Ukraine. So first of all, a couple of words on Saint-Gobain presence in Ukraine. So here you see the brands already present some way or another in Ukraine. This is flat glass brand, insulation materials, plasterboards, mixes, suspended ceiling systems, cast iron pipes, polyurethane, waterproofing, industrial gypsum, and abrasive. One of the important points here is that in some segments, 100% of the materials are being imported to Ukraine. Say, building glass was mostly imported from Russia and Belarus before the war, and Ukraine, Sergei said, doesn't have own production capacity. The same applies to the glass wool, which up to now 100% imported to Ukraine. Suspended ceiling systems or cast iron pipes of the big diameter. These are the investment opportunities for all the companies, including Saint-Gobain. Here are a couple words about us. We've been founded 350 years ago in France under supervision of the finance minister Colbert at the time. We have approximately 76 countries presence. We have 8 big R&D centers. We are filing approximately 400 patents every year. We have 800 production sites and over 166,000 of employees. Saint-Gobain is systematically entering the top 100 global innovators, which is made by Clarivate Analytics. In terms of sustainability goals, we are committed to be carbon neutral by 2050. Here is our mission. We want to make the world a better home, and our goal is create a sophisticated space and improve the life of people by introduction, comfort, efficiency, safety, availability, and beauty. And here are a couple words on our project. I was not authorized to put these in numbers, but I will gladly share all the information about it. So at the end of 2021, Saint-Gobain decided to build a gypsum plasters factory in the west of Ukraine in Ivano-Frankivsk region with the capacity of 60,000 tons per year. We estimated the total market of Ukraine at 740,000 tons at a time, with majority of production facilities located in cities of Bakhmut and Soledar. The capacity of the plants there exceeded 500,000 tons. And we all know that now after Ukrainian victory, they would need to take some time to restart production at these production sites. We were targeting mostly Western Ukrainian market as we saw growth of residential construction there. So the idea was to satisfy the needs of the customers by improved logistics compared to import goods or goods produced in the east of Ukraine. So the specificity of our project is that we started site mobilization. We signed the equipment supply agreement before the war, just in December 2021. And the majority of work over the project is being done in the condition of martial law. This gives a very interesting specific challenges to us, starting from the financing, which was available for us before the war, and it is available to us now. However, the cost of this financing has increased dramatically, making it not feasible option. Then availability of the people. I mean, we do contact a lot of state authorities in terms of getting different approvals or getting certain papers. And what we observe is that many institutions are lacking people now because women have left the country, and men tend to be under stress, taking a lot of sick leaves or medical treatments, which means for us the delays in approval documentation up to 3 months comparing to the schedule. Our schedule, by the way, foresees the start of production in December this year, 2023. However, with all the delays, we may be prolonging the project schedule a bit. Additional issues which are related to the war is absence of the insurance. So we do not have any assets insurance options for the moment, and we need to deal with this, and we need to take additional risks on us. So this make the project is more complicated than it used to be. Say complication which we are facing during the wartime is that foreign specialists or foreign colleagues are not allowed to enter the country. So whoever is planning the investment in Ukraine or preparation for the investment in Ukraine this time, they need to consider that foreign specialists are not available. So you need to rely on the local team. This is also a complication related to the impossibility to leave the country for the men. Our equipment supply agreement foresees that there will be factory acceptance tests, which is not possible to maintain in person because of the limitation linked to the martial law. Despite all of that, we are moving forward. We are getting our project developed, and we are getting huge support from the headquarters. We passed, in majority of cases, the approval stage, so we are ready to start our construction phase of the project. And for us, the major recipe which let us pass through all the obstacles is the belief, the trust of the headquarters and the strong team here in Ukraine, which is able to cope with these kind of challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pesenkov, for an excellent presentation and for highlighting the challenges, but it's despite all the challenges, there's still opportunities for investments and for developing these projects. And so I thank you for that really practical example that you have highlighted. Our last speaker, I'm aware of the time and I want to get into the Q&A as well. So our last speaker is Volodymyr Bandura. He is the CEO of Idealpor, is a Ukrainian company, and he will be speaking about manufacturing of granulated foam glass, which is a premium material for insulation and fire protection. Mr. Bandura, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You see my screen and you hear me?
I can hear you, and yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers. A very great event, very nice analytics, very nice intro. And it's even interesting that, as you can see, Ramina is also Bandura. I don't know if it is on purpose or it's just a coincidence, but this is how it is. First, let me introduce the team. Very experienced. We have very experienced team. A lot of projects done in real estate, in investment, in development, in architectural design. Andrew Antonenko, by the way, is here. He was the general designer for most of the airports recently reconstructed in Ukraine. And actually coming, to the background, I would like to, let's say, support the presentation from Sergey, the opening presentation, where he presented like great analytics, like showing exactly what was destroyed and how much we need. I would like to just add a number of, like, say, emotional pictures, because he has the latest figures. We also put some figures together, but he has the latest figures. But these are really like unprecedented scale of destruction since World War II, and which shall be rebuilt, because all these cities like Mariupol, like Nikolaev, like Kharkiv, they are built in strategic locations, and actually they serve real economical needs. There are ports, there are transits, there are people who want to live there, so they should be rebuilt. And also it raises another question, which was not discussed, but there is a huge task to recycle all this construction waste. Because you can imagine that in these cities, the cities which were under shelling, half of the city can stay without windows. Even if the building is intact, explosions can destroy windows. So the question is that you need to rebuild these windows, and you also need to recycle this glass. So I just also took a slide like during the presentation from Sergey, just to show one figure, which is very impressive, that we need 3.9 million square meters of glass. When you produce glass, I think everybody who is in this industry, you receive the bulk piece of glass, you need to cut it to turn it into the window of a specific dimension, and you have waste. This would produce unbelievable amount also of waste. Usually it's around 10% of the amount of windows produced. So this is one of the projects which the development of which I managed in my career. And based on this project, I would like to show that I think for all the professionals in the industry, you know that you have specific requirements, what structures you need to protect with fire protection systems. And basically, this is the key requirement. And also you need to insulate, obviously, the buildings and protect it from acoustic noise. So we developed a technology that we turn wasted glass, mostly from windows, into a premium insulation product, which is foam glass. Foam glass is a very widely used material. It's widely used in European Union, and which opens, this is illustration from one of the competitors in European Union. There are like dozens and dozens of applications, mostly for light concretes, for plasters, warm plasters, and for all kinds of boards, for acoustic protection, for fire protection. So there is a big market for this, and we believe that we can be highly competitive in the European market for two reasons. We have a lot of raw materials, which we can source cheap. Even before the war, the amount of recycled glass was very, very low, one of the lowest in Europe. And now it will be even lower. And also we have, as much of the heavy industry was destroyed, we have proficiency of electricity, and we can source cheap electricity, cheaper probably than anywhere in Europe. So this, again, the photo of one of the products we developed. These are panels consisting of granulated foam glass with a special high temperature resistant cement, which look beautiful, can be even as a finishing material. And they can provide fire protection from like all kinds of settings requirements. We tested it against European competitors, and we got similar or better results as for fire protection, let's say, quality. So Andrew Antonenko, again, who is my partner, he is here, developed already a beautiful concept, which we can quickly turn into project. And we own this technology, we developed this technology, we can scale it flexibly, so we can balance the investment. And some of the presenters, they mentioned that they had difficulties to find the land plot. We already have the land plots, very strategically positioned to develop these production capacities. And it makes sense not to build a big factory only in one location, but to build smaller modular, let's say, factories in the places where we have raw materials and in the places where we have high concentration of construction works, so that we can have the immediate, let's say, sales market. And of course, certainly we need to organize the sales of to European Union. So we have, as this is a very profitable business, because we turn basically waste into premium and pretty expensive product. So we, by our calculation, we can achieve very fast returns on this project, like under 4 or 5 years from the time when we start construction. So we also are deep in research and development. We know how to analyze research data, patent data from the leaders of the industry, and how to develop original products. And that's why we can like develop the lineup of the products as the business develops. Globally, the fire protection market, the insulation market, they are growing. And of course, in Ukraine, you will need huge capacity. Historically, for example, fire protection products were mostly imported. And due to disruption of logistic chains, to all the challenges, the market is opened for business. And we certainly would like to, with a strong partner, to take this market for the years to come for this reconstruction. So thank you. And looking forward to contacts.
Thank you, Mr. Bandura. And we have just a few minutes left for Q&A. And then I'm going to close with some key highlights from this session today, which was really excellent. So I'm going to turn to some of the questions open in the Q&A chat. This one is for Janusz. The first one is on what is the percentage of risk and maximum tenor that KUKA is ready to cover. So Janusz, if you can answer that. There's a question in Ukrainian for Saint-Gobain about are you still working in Russia? And then there's a third question for IFC. Is the factor of a potential lender of IFC still operating in Russia, and importance of IFC to finance Ukrainian projects of such lenders and companies? So borrow, okay, he meant borrowers. And then a question for Kingspan. Do you use investment guarantees for the project to cover the risk of default due to war damages. So we'll start with maybe Janusz, can you answer the question on the tenor and risk coverage, please?
Sure. So thank you for the question. In terms of risks, so we do cover 100% of the political risk, and in terms of the commercial risk, so the credit risk, it's almost most probably 95%, but with certain ideas we can cover even 100. Along with the OECD rules, which we're in line with whenever doing the transaction all over the world. In terms of the tenor, it depends on the sector that the transaction is going to happen. But we are, even with the situation nowadays of Ukraine, where we might be happy to do it even up to 10 years, most probably.
Wonderful, thank you. The question for IFC, Alexander, I'm not sure maybe I understood it correctly. So I don't know if Olena wants to answer that. But I'll turn out to Kingspan, to Mike. Do you use investment guarantees for the project to cover the risk of default due to war damages?
We have engaged with some insurance, but specifically right now the answer is no today. But the plan would be that we would use some type and some form, and we've been in conversations with probably 3 different organizations that our group would interact with already.
So, and then there's one last, there's many other questions. I don't know if we can extend the webinar, but there's a question on construction companies and general contractors. What is your assessment of needs for current time and expectations from the EU in terms of activities? And then there is another question on modular buildings for temporary housing. So I don't know if anybody wants to take those 2 questions, and then I'm going to wrap it up with some key level findings. And yeah, so modular, and then general contractors questions. Maybe Serhii?
I'll take the modular. So today's event is about investment opportunities. If any company wants to invest and produce modular facilities in Ukraine, we are happy to support this. If the question is about selling of modular products to Ukraine, it's not connected to today's event. You can also contact us. We can give you a brief on that. But today's event is on investments, and we do have a couple of requests from companies that are planning to build modular manufacturing facilities in Ukraine.
Yep. Vitaly, did you want to say anything?
Так, саме питання по модульних будинках. Хочемо сказати, що у нас 39 компаній, які переїхали до області, релоковані, і 2 з них змінили повністю профіль діяльності з Харківської області, переїхавши в Рівненську, почали виготовляти модульні будинки. Це будинки для переселенців і спеціальні будинки для надання послуг по пранню, по душу, тобто такі мобільні пункти, санітарні будиночки, називаємо це. Тобто у нас є така вже практика, і ці підприємства активно здійснюють діяльність і готові до розширення своєї діяльності. Дякую.
So I am going to start closing. Thank you for that. I'm going to start closing the event. I'm cognizant of the time. I just want to say, Ukraine is open for business now, and it will be a competitive market in the future. The strength of the Ukrainian people, and the workforce has shown that, and the resiliency of the economy and the banking sector is, it's a a blessing. Ukraine has a big, not only domestic market, but it's also a good market for companies that are willing to export as well. So don't only look at Ukrainian the domestic market, but it's also a market that you can export from. The issue is that now it's a good time to start planning. I mean, Serhiy has highlighted that, and because investments take 2 to 3 years just for the planning stage. There are partners in Ukraine that are have been working there for a long time. IFCs, DFIs such as IFC, I know EBRD also is working very strongly in Ukraine. MIGA, also part of the World Bank. We've heard from Kuke, who has never left Ukraine. And so there are areas such as project preparation, financing and insurance, which investors will need help. And of course, Ukraine Invest is ready to not only help with all the project preparation, but as Serhiy has mentioned, there are investment incentives and industrial parks in Ukraine to take advantage of. So Ukraine again is open for business, and we hope that this presentation entices more people to really come to Serhiy and others with investment projects in Ukraine. Lastly, I want to really thank the supporters and partners of this webinar today, of the FIT webinar, the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine, the European Business Association, the German Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Rebuild Ukraine International Exhibition Conference, Polish Investment and Trade Agency, Polish Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, IFC Europe and Central Asia, CSIS, Advantage Austria, Reach4, Comparec, Confederation of Builders of Ukraine, Rivne Regional State Administration, BGTV, Advocates, Associates, and Fund MAL, and of course, all our excellent presenters today and all our participants. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope we can distribute these presentations to everybody after we close. So I'm going to thank everybody, and we're going to sign off.
Closing remark from me, Romina.
Yeah. Okay, Serhiy. Yes.
Couple of minutes. So to sum up. So yes, indeed, we have strong support from international financial organizations, IFC and the others. Export credit agencies are ready to consider investments to Ukraine. Thank you to Kuke and all other partners like US DFC and other G7 and G20 countries and other partners. You have seen today practical cases of businesses that already planning investment in Ukraine. It will not take 2 to 3 years. It will take maybe 12 to 18 months, but still it's better to start planning now. So Kingspan, Saint-Gobain, Ukrainian companies like Idealpour and other players on market already doing that. I need to tell you that we have started preparation of an application for a Ukrainian company to start significant investment project around $50 million in production of construction materials. So this is already in our pipeline. Kingspan already preparing with us this application in due course. And on Monday, we will be announcing project that already completed. And we will do announcement on Monday about company that invested more than $60 million in construction materials. So please follow our news. Any company can get 30% state support if you invest more than 20 million euros. Also, there is a draft law in the Parliament of Ukraine to decrease the threshold to 12 million euros. So that will open even more doors. And one more small announcement, our next event, Fit for Ukraine, will be focused on logistics, and it will be held on the 21st of April. Please follow our news, and we'll be happy to see you all and additional partners and investors at our event. Ukraine is open for business. Ukraine is open for investments. Ukraine Invest and all government is open for cooperation. We want to see you in Ukraine. We welcome you in Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wish everyone a good day, and all questions that were not answered, we will answer by email. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.